link to the. All right. I just got a message that the webinar is being recorded. I think the recording started now, or maybe it started earlier. In any case, so Babu, if you would like to ask us any specific questions, you can do so either now before the webinar begins, or again, I encourage you to book a one-on-one call with us. There should be a link either in the chat that has already been sent. Yeah, there it is. It's at the top of the chat. But you will also receive it via email after the webinar. And so in the meantime, I was saying, yeah, one of the characteristics that permeates the platform overall is this concept of live data, right?
Gets updated in real time. And Nicola, having just adding to what you said, I think then Fluida as a tool would make a lot of sense for the managers and team leads, because then they would know exactly when and where the person who is available, and also the data that they are currently working on. So that also fetches the right kind of info to the managers to make informed decisions as well. So I believe in that sense also it works really well.
Precisely. Sometimes this concept of attendance monitoring, clocking in, clocking out, it can have a negative connotation. It can be seen in a negative way, but it's actually very positive, because on one hand, for managers, it's a tool that allows them to supervise in a way that is non-intrusive. And on the other hand, for employees, it's actually something that helps them disconnect when they want to disconnect. Right? Because like I said earlier, with the live view, both your managers and your fellow staff can see if you are currently working or not. And if you're not working, if you're not clocked in, then they shouldn't, right, bother you. And so it's, again, attendance monitoring, clocking in, sometimes seen as something intrusive. It's actually a tool to disconnect when you want to. And so to maintain a little bit of that work-life balance, even when you are working remotely. And that's why Fluida is a great tool for hybrid workforces specifically.
Yes, Nicola. And just to add to that, Nicola, we have a few attendees joining us. So hello people, I welcome you all to today's webinar. We would just wait for 3 more minutes to let everybody join in, and at 11:05 we would start the webinar. Thank you so much for your patience.
Just a few minutes. In the meantime, for everyone that is seeing maybe this first slide, this is some data that we collected from the businesses that use Fluida, and it's a comparison of how the time required to manage certain processes has gone down before compared to after. So we're going to find out what these categories are, but the overall goal of this slide is to, and the chart that I'm going to show you in greater detail afterwards, is to show just how much time. It can be difficult sometimes to understand exactly how much time you can save when these processes, HR tasks, are automated and you no longer have to do everything individually by hand, right? It's all automated. And these time savings, I should say, and I will explain in more detail for later, these time savings are not just for the managers, right? For the HR manager, or if there isn't maybe an HR manager per se, for the management staff that takes care of these responsibilities. But these time savings are also for the staff itself, because you can imagine how maybe, yes, an HR manager or a manager of another type has to verify and approve requests, maybe leave requests or expense reports for their entire staff. But the staff itself, the individual employees, have to fill out these requests. And these are tasks that can take some time if they're not streamlined like they are with Fluida. So the time savings are not just for the managers, but also for the individual employees. If an employee wants to record his or her attendance, it really takes seconds. If they want to send an expense report, once again, it takes seconds. So it's time savings across the board for both managers and staff.
Makes perfect sense, Nicola. And I guess we can start with the webinar.
All right,
Uh,
you tell me. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Greetings for the day. On behalf of Software Suggest and Fluida, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to today's webinar. My name is Sakshi, and I'll be your presenter for the day. Before we move forward, I would just like to let all of you know that you may share your queries in the Q&A section given right below. And we would be more than happy to answer all of your questions towards the end of the webinar. Also, for your future reference, we will be sharing the recording of the webinar over an email with all the relevant links so that it will be easier for you to get in touch with us. Now, moving forward, we all are aware how the global pandemic forced us to move to a remote working model. Now, amidst the times when businesses across the globe have been struggling with various issues, we truly believe that productivity of employees shouldn't be one of them. Today, our industry experts and speakers, Nicola and Andrea, from Fluida will take us through the ways in which productivity can be increased by a ginormous amount of 84%, believe you me, within 30 days. And your staff can be managed easily, and the entire workforce can be modernized by the tool at hand, Fluida. Now, over to you, Nicola.
Right, thank you. So as Sakshi said, my name is Nicholas Stark, and I am head of international sales over at Fluida. This is my boss, Andrea Bortolazzi. Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Mike. My name is Andrea Bortolazzi. I'm the CSO and one of the co-founder of Fluida.
Right. So before we begin, I'd like to ask you a few questions to understand if I'm speaking to the right audience. And I encourage you to maybe write your answers in the chat, any type of answer that you want. Sakshi is going to relate these answers to me as you write them. But so the first question is, I want to know from you, would you like your staff to take as long as possible to complete administrative work? Right. And this is administrative work like creating and assigning shifts or managing leave requests, collecting data to process pay slips, etc. Is this something that you want? Right? Do you enjoy it when your staff takes as long as possible to complete these tasks? If you want, write in the chat, just say no, hell no, whatever you want. Otherwise, I'm going to assume that, in fact, you do not want this. Perfect. There you go. I can see the answers coming in. So another question is, do you secretly love bureaucratic work? If you are the son of a bureaucrat, then maybe this is the wrong webinar for you. If you, there it is. If you love bureaucracy, you love endless paperwork, then if you have a fetish for that, then no, this is not the right webinar and not the right product. And then finally, I'm going to ask if you're happy when the people that you work with, your employees, your staff, if they make mistakes when performing administrative work. So maybe, are you happy when they miscalculate? These are all fairly rhetorical questions, but I'd like to get some feedback nonetheless. Are you happy when they make mistakes like miscalculating the work hours that have been worked throughout a month? I'm seeing other no's in the chat from Babu and Elizabeth. So let's get started then. Does your staff, your answers let me know that this is indeed the right audience. So does your staff, when they're working, send emails or handwritten letters? Emails or handwritten letters? Which tool do you use to work? I'm going to guess there it is. Emails from everyone. Fantastic emails. Why? Because I assume you value your time. You value your time and you value speed of execution. So software, like emails, means error-free and fast execution. So how important do you think it is to use these software tools, the best tools? If you're using email, then I assume that you do believe in the power of software and the power of these tools. Right here, we have a little mental picture. On one hand, the companies that I think embrace new technologies are at the top of the food chain. And instead, the ones that don't believe in the digital revolution are usually the ones that lag behind, and they don't adapt, and often they fail. In fact, maybe as we saw with the pandemic, the businesses that did not adapt to the changing circumstances and did not embrace the tools, the software tools necessary to adapt to these circumstances, ended up failing. So how much easier could your business life be if you used HR software? If we had to quantify this, how much easier would it be? How much of your time does your business spend on tasks that could be streamlined by using HR software like Fluida? Just like, emails versus handwritten letters. Here we have a comparison of HR software, Fluida, versus the legacy tools that companies usually use to manage attendance and other HR tasks, leave requests, expense reports, and so on. So I want to answer that question by giving you some data, and maybe those of you who arrived first will have already seen the chart in the beginning. But before I answer that question, I would like to ask you if, like in the example I mentioned earlier, you actually saw a person writing a handwritten letter and sending a handwritten letter to a coworker or to a customer instead of an email, how would you react in that moment? And I think that, at least for me, the answer is I would probably call an ambulance, because I would assume they're having a stroke. And maybe this is somewhat of an over-the-top answer, but I truly, when I see processes that I know could be managed more easily with Fluida, with HR software, and instead I see people who are performing all these tasks with these legacy tools, part of me is thinking, are you okay? Do I need to call an ambulance? Don't you know that we have the technology, we have the tools. Shout out to whoever gets that reference. We have the technology. So now I'm going to answer that question maybe in a more detailed fashion. How much time, and therefore money, can you actually save with a software like Fluida? So to answer this question, I'm going to begin with a breakdown of how an HR manager spends his or her time. Now, if your business, and I look forward to getting to know all of your businesses individually, but if your business doesn't have an HR manager per se, a single person that takes care of these duties, then it's likely that these responsibilities are spread out across the managers that your company has. And so the breakdown in terms of percentage, in terms of hours, is going to be the same. And so from the chart, you can see that an HR manager, or whoever has the responsibilities of HR, splits their time in a way that almost half of this time, you can see that 36 plus the 11%, is spent on managing administrative tasks, payroll, leave, and absence. So that's almost 50% of an HR manager's time. And it just so happens that these are exactly the tasks that Fluida streamlines and that it really reduces in terms of time required to complete them. Another thing that I would like to highlight here is that you can see on the left in this graph, there's a tiny sliver, a tiny slice of the pie is dedicated, 8% is dedicated to HR strategy. And I don't know about you, but I think that an HR person should spend most of their time on HR strategy, because I believe that's the most valuable work that they can do. That's why they get paid. They shouldn't spend their valuable time on these repetitive tasks that can be automated with software like Fluida. So if we take this breakdown of how an HR manager spends his or her time, and we kind of look at it from a monthly perspective, right? So work hours spent on these activities per month, we get a breakdown that looks a little bit like this. And this is the answer to the question, how much time and money can you save with Fluida? You can save on some tasks up to 84%. And in 30 days, why? Because you can usually see these time savings within the first month. You start using the software, and within the first month, you can get a sense of how much less time all these tasks are taking. And this is data that we've gotten from our customers that have measured the time it took for them to perform certain actions and to manage. You can see the categories here: to manage leave, attendance and payroll, expense reports, and sending important documents before and then after with Fluida. So the average savings are in the order of 70 to, again, up to 84%. And maybe in percentage terms, the biggest change occurs in a category like leave, but in terms of volume, it's definitely in attendance and payroll. HR managers spend a lot of time managing that. So how much can you save? I gave you the breakdown earlier, but saving time means saving money, but companies that use Fluida see other types of savings too. And in fact, maybe a theme of today's webinar, something that's going to happen in today's webinar is that I'm not going to be able to get into all the details of Fluida. To get those, I'm going to encourage you to book a demo with us, to message us. We'll be sending you our emails and the link to the demo booking page after the webinar, and you can also already find it in the chat. But yeah, so another way that companies save money with Fluida is by avoiding mistakes. So it turns out that people are not perfect and humans make mistakes. That's why we're being replaced with machines everywhere you look. There are machines being developed to take the place of humans. And these mistakes that humans make with things like data input can be very expensive for businesses. So for example, when you're managing payroll, imagine how much a single mistake can cost your business. When these processes are automated through Fluida, there are no more mistakes. And that's a real, companies get substantial savings from that. And so that's why I like to think that Fluida isn't something that costs money, right? Because you should instead think about how much not using Fluida is costing your business right now. And so this is why we created Fluida, because we believe that HR software for SMBs, right, small to medium-sized businesses, is revolutionizing the way that these companies do business. We believe that bureaucracy will become a relic of the past. So what's next? In today's presentation, I'm going to now talk a little bit more. Actually, soon I'm going to give the word to Andrea Bortolazzi, our CSO. He's going to talk to you about what the philosophy that underlies Fluida is. And then I'm going to take the mic again, and I'm going to tell you about a few of the principles that characterize all the features of the Fluida platform. And then we're going to get into a breakdown of the actual features of Fluida, all the processes that Fluida streamlines. We might not be able to finish all of these. I'm definitely going to focus more on the first ones because these are the ones that companies are usually the most interested in, and maybe they are also the ones that are more complex. If we don't get a chance to finish all of them, then again, be sure to book a one-on-one demo call with us. We'd love to talk to you about anything that you would like to have more information on and to get to know your individual situations. So what is Fluida? This is our tagline, the HR platform that simplifies the relationship between companies and employees. And for this part, as I said, I'm going to hand over the mic to Andrea Bortolazzi. Andrea, why don't you tell us a bit about this, please?
Yes, thank you, Nicola. Hello, everyone, again. Like you said, I just wanted to say a few words about why Fluida was created. Fluida exists because we believe that modern companies are still using old tools. We believe that when companies embrace new tools that allow to automate repetitive tasks, they can focus on doing the work on they really matter. Developing work that drives their success, not repetitive, administrative, busy work. This is what we think. Now, large companies already possess this type of tools that increase efficiency and reduce errors. Because large companies have large budgets that they can use to develop custom software. Small to medium-sized business don't have access to this type of budgets. And that's why we developed Fluida. With Fluida, SMBs can access to the high benefits of HR software, like time saving, cost saving, and error avoidance, with very low price tag. These few words, and I can share with you again the mic to go on.
Thank you. Exactly like you said, Borto, for everyone, this really is the core of Fluida. Having a software that gives you the same power and efficiency that large businesses have with their custom software, but at a price tag that is infinitely smaller. So now I'm going to maybe illustrate just a few of the principles that characterize the Fluida platform, and you can expect to notice these principles in all of the features. And then I'm going to get into a deeper breakdown of the core modules, the core features of Fluida. So Fluida is flexible, intuitive, and always up to date. These three characteristics will be present in all the features. Flexible, why? Because you can manage all the tasks, all the processes, however you like. And this flexibility even extends beyond that. I can give you an example. You can even pay for Fluida flexibly. And so what does that mean? Fluida has many modules and many features, and you only have to pay for the modules that your business needs. So if you look at the features and you think, okay, these are the ones that I am most interested in and that my company needs the most, then you will only pay for those. So it's a pay based on your needs. And another example of flexibility, and actually one of my favorites, and one of maybe the biggest competitive advantage that Fluida has, it's something that is just unmatched in the marketplace, is the way that with Fluida you can record attendance. Fluida, once again, is flexible because you can record attendance however you like, with whether your staff is working remotely, whether they're working on site, whether you want to use Bluetooth technology, GPS technology, or maybe traditional NFC badges, whatever you want to do, whatever technology you want to use, however you want to record the timestamps, you can do so with Fluida. So that's the flexibility. And again, there are many more examples of this principle. The second is intuitiveness. So Fluida is always easy to use, so much so that you'll realize that there's no onboarding required. Employees don't need to be told how to use the platform. There are no explanations required. And this is because the ethos that we used during the development of Fluida is that Fluida should have the power of B2B software, but use the design language of B2C software. So I'm talking about the social media platforms, the Facebook, the Twitter, all these platforms that are very easy to use and very intuitive. An intuitiveness that is often not shared by the business software that we use. And so we wanted to make sure that Fluida was intuitive and easy to use. And finally, something that I mentioned earlier, the fact that all of Fluida's features, all the data that flows through the platform is always up to date. And this is something that you can see, for example, and with regards to the leave request management. Imagine, so when an employee requests leave, he sends a leave request, then if the request is accepted by the manager, this leave request is immediately and automatically added to the shared company calendar. And then, of course, this information is included in the data export at the end of the month, the data export that is used to calculate, to process pay slips. So that's an example, and maybe another feature, another example of the way that Fluida is always up to date and displays real-time data is something that I mentioned before the webinar itself started. And it's the fact that at any time there is the possibility of accessing a live view of who is in the office. So and this is especially useful when you're working remotely. When you're working remotely, sometimes you don't know who is actually present, who has clocked in. If you were physically in the office, you could turn around and see that your colleague is there and ask him or her a question. If you're working remotely, sometimes it can be difficult to know if someone is or is not available. So that's an example of how Fluida is always up to date. And this again is true for all of Fluida's features. So now we're going to get deeper into Fluida's modules. So Fluida, again, simplify the relationship between companies and employees. We're going to see an overview now of what these modules are. Right, these are the 6 core modules that comprise Fluida at the moment. I should note that Fluida is a platform that is always expanding. In fact, I could even add another note to what I said earlier. Over here, we talked about the fact that Fluida is flexible. It is also flexible in the sense that we are constantly adapting to the needs of businesses, the new needs, the growing needs of businesses. We're launching new features, we're developing new features. And so these are the 6 core modules that are present at the moment, but you can expect there to be more in the future. And so these modules are attendance management, smart clocking in and out, expense reports, documents, activity summaries, and company communications. So let's dive in with the first one, attendance management. So what this module allows you to do is it allows you to create and assign shifts, automatically add leave requests to the shift calendar, export all data, and send it to your payroll specialist to process payslips. All of this in just a few taps. So this is a look at the UI of the attendance management module. And I encourage you to start your free trial so you can have a deeper look at this. But so let's maybe talk about a few of the details of this module. So the first thing you'll want to know is that with the attendance management module, you'll have access to the company calendar. And so this company calendar is a unified view of all attendance information of all employees that, like I said, is always up to date and always accessible from any device. If I did mention it earlier, I should say that Fluida is accessible from any device, whether this is a desktop computer or a mobile phone, you can always access it. Now, in this calendar, you will have access to the individual shifts of each employee, and each employee will be able to see the shifts of their coworkers as well. This calendar will also include all the data about the leave requests, any maybe days during which employees are working part-time, any days during which they are sick and they cannot be reached. All the data about the attendance of employees is contained in the calendar and can be consulted by staff. Now, there are options, and actually this once again kind of goes back to the previous theme of flexibility. So there are really options for all the features, and that's why we can't get into all of them today. But I am going to mention, for example, that when you set up your company calendar, you can make it so that employees only see their own requests that they have sent to managers, while instead managers see the requests in the calendar that all employees have sent. More specifically, an employee will maybe see that a fellow employee is going to be absent on a specific date, but they will not be able to see the reason for privacy reasons. While instead, the manager will be able to see all the reasons why all the employees are absent. All this data contained in the calendar about shifts and leave and attendance, etc., can be exported at the end of the month and sent to a payroll specialist to process payslips. Now, before the data is added to the calendar, it has to be created. Specifically, shifts have to be created, and managers can create shifts with extreme ease. They can create templates of shifts and assign them to each employee. They can create templates for weekly shifts, for daily shifts. If they want, they can add custom shifts, assign maybe flexible shifts. This is the flexibility principle that I mentioned earlier. So however you want to, whatever type of shift you want to create, you can do so, and you can add them, you can assign them to individual employees or to teams with ease. Next, we have overtime and customized rules. So once again, flexibility, and maybe I should also say the ability to customize everything. So maybe you want to manage shifts by adding particular rules. So one of these rules, I have a list of them here. One of these rules could be overtime. Maybe your business doesn't want to pay overtime. Maybe that's your policy. No judgments here. Maybe you don't want to pay for overtime. And so if an employee clocks out after his or her shift has ended, you don't want to pay for overtime. But maybe instead you want to decide that, all right, so if the shift ends at 6 p.m., let's say, if the employee clocks out at 6:15, they're not going to be paid for that extra 15 minutes. They're not going to get the overtime. But instead, if the extra time goes beyond 30 minutes, then you do want to pay for that overtime. So let's say that they clock out at 6:45. You can set these rules so that overtime will be calculated after a certain amount of time has elapsed after the shift has ended. So you can set it so that after 30 minutes, overtime will be counted by the system as paid time. Rounding adjustments are instead an example of how if you, let's say that you have a business where you require very specific attendance, very precise attendance management needs, and you need all your employees to clock in exactly at 8 a.m. If you want, you can do that. And if an employee clocks in even 1 minute after 8 a.m., then the system is going to count that as a tardiness, right? And managers are going to be notified. But if you want, you can set rounding adjustments so that if they clock in at, let's say, 8:04, then the system is going to make a rounding adjustment, and it's going to count that as an on-time timestamp. So you can decide what this interval is, if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. Deferred shifts instead are shifts where maybe you allow your employee to clock in, let's say 15 minutes after 8 o'clock. Your standard start time is 8 o'clock, but it's all right if your employee clocks in at 8:15. But if they do so, you want them to then also end their shift 15 minutes afterwards. Break management instead is a rule that allows your staff to have their break be or not be counted as paid work time. So you can decide if when the break starts, that break is not going to be counted towards paid work time, or you can instead decide to count it. And then finally, no rules whatsoever. So for those maybe for managers, but in any case, for those employees that don't have any kinds of obligations, you can decide to not have any particular rules. You can decide maybe that an employee only has to clock in once a day to confirm their attendance, but not at a specific time. They don't have to clock out. It's just once a day. It's just a general way to manage attendance. Remote working. So we talked about at the very beginning of this webinar about how Fluida is a great tool for hybrid workforces for people who are working remotely. And that's exactly the case, because all of Fluida's features are designed to work in the same way, regardless of where your staff is, whether they're working on site or remotely. All the data from, for example, all the timestamps converges in the same interface, right? It's all part of the same database. I'm going to maybe start moving just a little bit faster here, and then I encourage everyone to ask us questions during maybe a one-on-one demo call that we would love to schedule with each one of you. But so in the attendance management module, another very important feature is how leave requests are handled. So Fluida streamlines the submission, the approval, or denying of leave requests, and displays all this information, like I said, in the company calendar. Not just in that, though, as you'll see in a moment. So what you should know about the leave request, the way leave requests are managed, is that employees can submit leave requests with extreme ease. We talked earlier about the design language of B2C, right? So if you can post on Facebook, right, and usually you don't need instructions to learn how to post on Facebook, you can, I'm seeing some questions. We're going to answer all of these maybe either towards the end or during one-on-one calls. But so if you're able to post on Facebook, then you're able to submit a leave request. And that's why employees can do that extremely quickly. Managers are able to then approve these requests with extreme ease. Tell me if this is familiar. So you're a manager and maybe you get a request from one employee via email, from another employee via Slack, somebody sends you an SMS message, you have all these requests, you have to take this data, open an Excel spreadsheet, input the data, check if you can approve it or not. And then if you do approve it, you have to update these documents, etc. Forget all that. With Fluida, the managers receive all the leave requests in the app. And as you can see, maybe from this simplified view here on the right, this screenshot that doesn't have any data. But again, if you want to see that in action, just download the app and start your free trial. They can approve or deny them in seconds. And when they are, for example, approved, they are automatically added to the shared calendar. I think that's everything for this feature. Right. So employees can always access a summary, and maybe we can actually go to the next slide. So employees can access a summary of all of the requests that they have sent, and managers can access a summary of all the requests that they have received from their team. I should mention the advanced shift planner. So this is a feature for businesses that have complex shift management needs. And it's a great feature because it allows shift planners in these companies that have complex shift management needs to plan these shifts while having an overview of the shifts for the entire month for multiple employees. I'm going to show you maybe a bigger, there it is, a larger view of this. And this is really great for the types of companies that I mentioned earlier. Really gives you a bird's eye view so that you can immediately see which employees are going to be maybe on holiday, which ones have already requested other types of leave. And so you can plan your shifts accordingly. And it's really easy to do so. We're getting some great feedback from companies about this. The next feature is smart clocking in and out. And this is perhaps one of my personal favorite features of Fluida. And it's one of the ones that really distinguishes the platform. There really is no other platform that offers the same breadth in terms of clocking in as Fluida does. So once again, here there is just a brief look at the UI of the smart clocking in feature. And yes, what we should know is Fluida is the most complete attendance monitoring solution on the market, period. So why is this the case? Because it allows you to record, allows your employees, your staff to record their attendance however they like. So whether they're working remotely, whether they're working on site, they can record their attendance, and you can use whatever technology you want. So you can use Bluetooth technology, GPS technology, and even NFC badges. I'm going to start moving a little bit faster because there's so much to say. We're probably not going to get to explain all of the features, but I'm going to focus here on the ones that companies usually love the most. And then for everything else, like I said, one-on-one call, we'd love to chat with you. So if you want to clock in and out on site, for example, you can do so by recording timestamps via GPS. And so managers can, inside the app, set an address for a workplace, for your office or factory or wherever your work, whatever type of workplace you have. And employees' timestamps will be validated if the employees if they find themselves within this GPS radius, let's say. Something that I should note immediately is that Fluida never tracks you, right? So the software simply verifies if you find yourself in the pre-configured GPS area. And if you're not, Fluida doesn't know where you are, and it's not built to track you to know this. And also doing so will be very, very illegal. And we do not want to do that. And we do not care to do that. If you are recording attendance on site, then you can also do so. We said you can do so using GPS technology, and that entails simply using your phone. You need no additional hardware, and you can do that inside a 200-meter diameter. But if you want to record attendance on site more precisely, then you can use Fluida's devices. And we are the We are the only platform that offers hardware devices of this type. So if you would like to record your attendance on site using just your smartphone, you can do so with the Fluida Beacon. And the Fluida Beacon is a little device that you see here on the right. There are two devices, the Fluida Station, which is the larger black one, and the tiny white one is the Fluida Beacon. With the Fluida Beacon, you can record your attendance in a small 10-meter wide area. And this is great for companies that want to record their attendance, want employees to record their attendance inside a specific room of a building, maybe a specific area like a lobby, things like that. Maybe if you are a restaurant and you need your staff to confirm that they are in a specific location when their shift starts, this is great for them. Maybe a factory or even an office, right? You want to confirm that your employees have arrived at the office. If instead you would like your employees to use, in addition to their phones, NFC badges, because maybe they prefer to not use their cell phones, or maybe they can't use their cell phones because of the type of job that they're performing, then you can go with the Fluida Station, which affords you this just extreme flexibility, both a modern approach and a more legacy approach with NFC badges. So I should note that the Fluida Beacon is extremely cheap, and it comes in at just 29 euro plus VAT. If you're clocking in and out remotely instead, you can do so using GPS technology. If there is a site, which is the work site where your employees are going to be working, then you can, as a manager, set that as the area inside of which they can clock in. Or maybe if you just have office staff and you would like for them to work from home, but not from the beach in Barbados, then you can set their GPS coordinates, the GPS pre-authorized area, to be their domicile, for example. If employees...
sorry to interrupt you in between.
Go ahead,
I
Sakshi.
guess one of the attendees is facing a little bit of problem with seeing the presentation. So would it be possible for you to expand it, or just reduce your speaker's window so that they're able to see the presentation more clearly?
They want me to reduce what, sorry?
The presentation frame. You can go in the chat and see the message.
So I see in the chat says, is it possible to expand the presentation frame and reduce the speaker frame to small view? So right now, what I am seeing is the presentation in full screen. I don't see anything else really. So maybe this is something that Software Suggest can handle on the technical end. On the technical side?
Let me see if that can be done. Thank you.
In the meantime, seeing a question, great. But what if the time settings are tampered with? So you can decide if you want to allow your staff to be able to input the time during which they're clocking in. But most companies don't do this. Only managers have the power to, we call it correcting a timestamp. So let's say that you want your employee to clock in at 8 a.m. They clock in at 8:10. So they're late. The manager gets a notification, and the manager can decide if they want to manually correct this, and so rewind the clock on that timestamp essentially. But employees cannot do this. Employees do not have access to this. If the employee has to clock in at a specific time and they don't do so, then this is going to be the system. Fluida is going to notify the manager of this, and the individual employee cannot change this. So they can't tamper with the time settings. Right. I'm going to continue. Finally, just like with the schedules. Thank you, Elizabeth. Just like with the schedules, all this data can be exported. It can be viewed inside the app, and then it can be exported at the end of the month in Excel format, or it can be accessed via API and integrated with payroll or other corporate software. Next, we have expense reports. And I think, this is going to be maybe the last feature that I'm going to analyze more in depth. There are more features to Fluida, and to learn more about those, I encourage you to schedule a one-on-one call with us. We would love to talk to you and get to know more about your individual needs. But expense reports, another very popular feature. It allows you to fill out and approve expense reports faster than you've ever done before. This, once again, is an overview of the user interface of the feature. Start your free trial so that you can see all of this for yourself. And here we are. So why, what is so beneficial about Fluida's expense reports? Why is it such a great feature to have? With Fluida's expense reports, you can fill out, include all the relevant information, send the expense report to your manager. Your manager can approve it and reimburse it faster than you've ever done before. And so how does this happen exactly? First of all, there are 12 expense categories that you can choose from. When an employee needs to submit an expense report, they can choose an expense category. And when they do so, they're given the option to fill out all the relevant information fields that have to do with that expense. They can include things like pictures, right? If we're talking about a restaurant expense, or give you another example, if the expense that we're talking about is maybe a mileage expense, then the information fields that are given to the user are maybe the address of the departure and arrival, so the departure and arrival address. And thanks to an integration with Google Maps, the software is going to automatically calculate the distance between these two addresses. And this is really cool. Each employee can add their vehicle to their profile. And so Fluida is going to automatically calculate the expense, how much this trip cost and how much should be reimbursed based on the average fuel consumption of that vehicle and based on the distance that was traveled, again, based on the departure and arrival addresses. Once again, like with every other Fluida feature, you can access all your data inside the application. And you can also export it in PDF or Excel format. Now, here's another way that Fluida really speeds up the submission of these expense reports. There's a technology called Divinator that allows you to automatically fill out certain information fields just by taking a picture of the receipt. So you take a picture of the receipt and the total expenditure is automatically added to the form, and the date is added to the form. And this really helps speed things up and avoid typing errors. I don't know, I'd love to continue, but Sakshi, what do you think? I think we're out of time for today. I should note that the next features are documents. I'm just going to quickly go over them. With the documents feature, you can easily send and archive important documents. Imagine how maybe your employees, you need to keep certain files. For each employee, you need to have a copy of their ID, of their contract, of their pay slips. With the documents feature, you can send all of these documents to the employees in a way that allows you to keep track of whether the employee has received them or not. And then you can keep them handy for at any moment when you need to actually access them. We all know how it feels sometimes when exactly when you need to find that one document that you always had lying around, you can't find it. Well, with documents, you can forget about that. It really simplifies things. And the Divinator feature is also present. So the automatic filling out of certain fields, information fields, is also present in the documents. The activity summary is, I'm going to maybe flip through these really quickly, is a way, here's the UI once again. The activity summary is a way to measure how much time your employees take to perform certain tasks, and also to keep track of the progress that is being achieved on certain tasks. And you can access all this information and you can visualize it by dividing it, by sorting it based on activity, based on customer. It's a really great way to manage the work time that your employees are completing. Finally, I'm going to maybe just mention company communications. So this is a way to reliably send communications to your employees, corporate communications, you know, from the from management and from the higher floors. Your employees will never miss important communications, and in fact, you can even get you can even have it so that employees, once they receive a communication, tick a receipt box so that you are confident that they have seen and read the communication. There are more features, such as the company directory. It's a way to have every employee list all their contact details. These are links to, you know, their WhatsApp or whatever, FaceTime, Skype, whatever other applications they use. It's very practical, and yeah, there are, even if you believe it, there are even more features that I would love to talk to you about today, but I think that's all with the time we have for now.
Thank you so much, Nicola. Thank you for sharing the insights. And now the floor is open for questions. We do have a few in the chat, Nicola. I think you might want to take them up. In the meantime, I request all of our attendees to just drop in their queries in the chat section or the Q&A section.
Maybe let's see, can we actually give them access to the mic? Can we unmute anybody who wants to ask a question or to talk?
Also, for the reference of the attendees, I'm reposting the message, and over here, all the details are there, via which you can reach out to Nicola as well as share the demo with Team Fluida.
Yeah, I highly recommend that everyone use the link that has been just dropped in the chat, and that's the link to book a one-on-one demo. That's really the best way to talk to us and to explain what your individual needs are. Yeah, I would definitely take advantage of that.
I can see that there is a query regarding attendance management. So would you like to shed some light on that, Nicola?
Hold on, where is it? It's in the chat?
Has posted a message at 9:04. Also, Anand X has also posted a message. He's asking that for a work from anywhere model, can the details be customized for each employee?
Absolutely, absolutely. So each employee can, you can customize the way in which each employee has to work. This customization applies both to shifts. Obviously, each employee has different types of shifts, but also to the way that they have to record their attendance. So maybe you want them to record their attendance at the beginning and end of every shift. Other employees maybe have more of a, they have more freedom. You just want them to record their attendance once a day. Maybe other employees still, you want them to be present in a specific location when they record their attendance. This location could be their domicile, in case maybe they're an office worker that works from home. Or you could say, no, you don't have to be at home. You can really be wherever you want, like the beach in Barbados that we mentioned earlier, as long as the work gets done. So yes, the recurring theme here, and the reason why I mentioned it at the beginning of the presentation, is really that everything is flexible. This is what we do. We work with businesses, we talk to businesses, we understand their needs, and we have created a platform that responds to these needs. I think, again, a question from Anant. And I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It is global in deployment. Well, first of all, we are present in how many countries at this point? Andrea, do you remember? Maybe 13, 14 countries?
Yeah. We are in the AWS IT infrastructure, so we can reach all the parts of the world. And so we are scalable, and our CDN guarantee the same performance in all the world. And we actually sell in more than 10 countries.
So to expand on that question, like Andrea just said, we can access the entire world, but then the platform itself has been built to function with teams that are present everywhere in the world. And I can give you an example of that. So maybe let's say that you're a single company that has that has offices in 2 different cities in 2 different continents, you know. Maybe in these 2 different continents, there are different holiday calendars. And so what you can do is you can create different kinds of holiday calendars so that one branch of this same company will have holiday calendar X because they're observing the holidays of that country. And the other branch is going to have a different kind of holiday calendar with different company closing days, right? And so all this information is important because when you export at the end of the month to process pay slips, the right holidays have to be present. And so that's an example of how yes, Fluida is a platform made for companies that need to manage teams in different countries. Maybe exactly. Okay, awesome. I'm happy to note that you do appreciate the holiday calendar. Yeah. Can you own it? What does that mean?
I'm assuming that it's in continuation to the questions that were asked previously. So one query is that in the leave module workflow, is that managed?
The workflow.
The other one is that does Fluida offer customized approval workflow as well? So those are the 2 queries.
Yeah, you can manage all the option. We have for sure some different roles on the platform, and a power user or a team leader can modify the standard leave management workflow and decide if one person have to be monitored from a team leader or not. And also you can customize your let me say dictionary of leave reasons, and you can for each of them decide if it's something that you can manage with the workflow or not.
Once again, the key word is flexibility. So I'm just going to reiterate what Andrea just said. You can customize the approval workflow, absolutely. You can decide that a certain employee doesn't need any type of approval from anyone. They can approve their own requests, or you can decide maybe for a specific team who manages the approvals for that team. Or yeah, I mean, yeah, people, you can 100% customize the approval workflow however you like. I see another question, which is like, is attendance? Hold on a second. There are a few questions that are passing on the screen. Is attendance
the first
correction
one? No, the first one was about the purchase the system to own it. Fluida is a software as a service, so you can pay for subscriptions, but we manage the platform with only one instance for all customers. So it's not a on-premise software.
And I see another question, which is attendance correction the option available? And it is. You can. So like I mentioned earlier, maybe if an employee records their attendance and they have done so, maybe they're late, right? The manager is going to be notified about this tardiness, and they can correct it, right? They can modify the data. Only managers or whoever as the system admin you decide has this power can do this. So yes, you can correct attendance, or more generally speaking, you can manually change all types of parameters and all types of anything that is recorded by the platform. Essentially, managers can do this, right? Managers can do this, and employees instead cannot. Another question that I see is, how do you charge for use of the application? Right. So maybe one thing that we haven't talked about is pricing. I mentioned that Fluida is extremely affordable when you think about the time savings and the error savings. It's really an amazing tool to have at your disposal. How much does it cost? So we have 3 different plans, and each plan gives you access to a different number of modules, right? You saw that the core modules at the moment are 6. And with these 3 plans, you can access different numbers of them. With the first plan, you can access 1. With the second plan, you can access 3. And with the third plan, you can access 6. And I am giving you a number and not the names of the modules, because you can choose which modules you can, which modules you need, right? So, and the prices for these are very affordable. I recommend, the first plan starts at just €1 plus VAT. I recommend that you check out our website to see the pricing and to calculate that, because maybe there's a bit of a difference with regards to the pricing between a monthly plan and a yearly plan, where obviously you get a discount if you subscribe to a yearly plan.
Just as an extension to that, Nicola, like, do the people also get the flexibility to pay for a particular service that they want? Like, beyond the modules that you have set, can they pay for a particular service or a feature that they want as an add-on? So basically, are add-ons also available?
There are no add-ons, because all the modules are designed to, be sort of self-sustaining, right? They cannot, you cannot add anything else on top of them, and you cannot remove anything from them. But this is not usually something that companies request. Every module,
generally, right?
yeah, every module is self-contained. It can be self-contained, and yeah, there is no need to add anything else on top of it, if not an entire new module, right? Companies want that.
Makes sense.
Will it record which manager did maybe perform what change manually for manager's review? Maybe, Borto, do you want to take this question? Does Fluida allow maybe the admin to see which managers performed which correction with regards to what employee data?
Well, all the action are logged on the platform, and so managers can see with a notification system. You can see all the action the team is doing in real time. So yes.
And even the
Also,
actions that managers are performing, right? Even the actions that managers take are logged by the system.
Yeah, all the actions are logged on the system, and also regarding the data inside Fluida, I would like to underline that with our REST API, so web services, we can provide data or the possibility to write some information inside Fluida from outside, so SAP, Microsoft, or whatever system, or dashboards, because some from the bigger size customers we have developed by themselves some dashboards of BI that use Fluid API to data visualization also. Yeah,
all right, I believe
that analysis. Yeah, I see
that
Elizabeth. Yeah.
Would you like to affirm, Nicola, to what Elizabeth just highlighted?
I see. Sorry. So Elizabeth is telling Chirantan that data analysis should be easy. Yeah. Are you referring to that?
Yeah,
Yes.
we already have some standard reports. We already have some standard reports inside the platform about attendance module, timestamps, leaves in general, and also absence reasons also. But as I mentioned before, if you like to have some data visualization more advanced, or in another system, you can use custom dashboards or BI tools to ask for our APIs to provide data you need.
Excellent. Guys, I think that we can bring this to a close. I would love to maybe keep answering questions. For that, I encourage everyone to, I'll say it again, book a one-on-one demo. We will love talking to you and understanding what your individual needs are. But I think that's all for today.
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you, Andrea, for taking us through this. And I hope you all found the webinar insightful. And in case of any queries or questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you again for coming, and have a great week ahead. In fact, Nicola, I just saw a message. People have already started booking the demos as well.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for your time, Nicola and Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to say, if for whatever reason the schedule gets overbooked and you don't see any availabilities, don't worry. Reach out to us via email. We'll make space for each one of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Okay.